Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. We've got a very special program for you here today. So we have got on the line with us none other than Frank Marino of Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush, one of the most iconic, legendary rock guitar players, rock guitar players and vocalists of the last 45 years or so. And Frank has kind of been in the news of late. He's got a brand new live concert video box set called Live at the Agora Theater, recorded in 2010 at the Agora in Cleveland, Ohio. We actually have already reviewed this on the channel a few weeks back, but I wanted to get kind of Frank on the show today to talk a little bit about kind of the history that went behind the creation of this, any other little snippets of kind of what kind of he went through to put this together, from the performance to the post-editing and that long process, and the little issues that kind of came up along the way, although Frank, I'm sure, will tell us they weren't little issues, and kind of what we can expect from Frank going forward from here. So, ladies and gentlemen, Frank Marino. Frank joining us from Canada today. Frank, thanks again for being on the show. And for everybody out there listening, Frank and I actually did like a phone interview for our website back about 15 or so years ago. So this is the first time that Frank and I have talked since that day. It's been too many years in between, if you ask me, but I'm very happy he was able to join us today. So Frank, welcome to Sea of Tranquility and all our viewers out there.
I'm very happy to be here, Peter. Very happy to be here indeed.
Great. Well, thanks again for joining us and spending some time. So, Frank, I guess to kind of start it all off, and so I want to kind of center our conversation today on this release, but if you could maybe kind of take us back. So, the year 2000, saw the release of Eye of the Storm, okay, which was the first new album of studio music from you in roughly about a decade or so. You followed that up a couple of years after that with the Real Live release, which was a sensational live album, some sporadic touring here and there throughout the rest of that decade. But could you maybe kind of talk a little bit about the Eye of the Storm record and kind of how that led up to eventually deciding to put together a concert video for the fans, something which you had never done before, and kind of talk about that kind of 10-year period between Eye of the Storm and actually going and recording the performance at the Agora?
Well, I mean, from the time that Eye of the Storm came out, and even well before that, video had become pretty much mainstream since like the late 80s and 90s. People were doing videos, always doing videos. I'd never done video. I mean, I'd been on a lot of television and stuff because, you're doing a show like Cal Jam or whatever, and they film it, or, whatever you do. But, and, of course, once people started bringing their cameras to gigs, they were doing that too. But I'd never really participated in a kind of a video thing because, quite frankly, I always felt the few that I had seen, it's not like I watched them, but the few that I had seen always seemed to me detrimental to the music of the artist. And
Sure.
So my whole thing was like, why put the music on video? You're either turning it into something that people can't use their imagination with anymore, or they're becoming observers, or it's pretty good for clinicians if you want to show, how you play the guitar or something. So I was kind of reluctant, and it wasn't something that I really thought was terrible that people were doing, but it's just not something that really floated my boat.
Sure.
And I just didn't. I liked the day when I could listen to music and use my imagination, and think, oh, gee, I wonder how that happened in that room that day, and blah blah blah. I think everyone did that where I came from. We used to stare at album covers and wonder how the session went down.
Yeah. And to quote an old Joe Perry song, "Let the music do the talking." Right?
Yeah, true.
And I think we got away from that in like the 80s. I think I've been a big proponent of the belief that I think that MTV and the whole music video scene kind of killed music and rock music in general for quite a number of years.
Well, somebody did say video killed the radio star, it basically what did happen. But The problem isn't just that it was video. Certainly, you know, we had some video of Woodstock. Okay, so
Yeah.
that was interesting. But I think what happened is videos became more about the pictures rather than about simply the pictures showing what the band is doing. For instance, my favorite video of any group or of any musical video has always been Martin Scorsese's production of The Last Waltz, which is The Band with Robbie Robertson.
Sure.
And the reason that's my favorite is because you just forget you're watching video. It's really about the music, and the camera sort of takes you onto the stage, and it's about the band. It's about the band playing its music, and it sounds really, really good. And I think, you know, to some degree, you take some of the shots away from Woodstock that were showing the crowds and stuff. Woodstock was kind of like that too. You had, you know, you got to be on stage with the band. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But videos became more about other things. As soon as electronics entered into it and we were able to use laser lights and, you know, flying cameras and cameras attached to guitar necks and all that kind of stuff, it just became this kind of sales pitch, I felt. Where the imagery was really saying, you know, look, the music's okay, but the imagery is going to make it that much better.
Sure.
And I just felt that detracts from that. So I never really wanted to participate, and I was always reluctant. Now, friends of mine had said, you know, you're too much of an iconoclast. You should do one. Everybody's doing one. You know, I know you're anti-establishment, Frank, but you're killing yourself. You know, that's basically what they were telling me. And I was always saying, well, you know what? If it that kills me, it kills me. You know, I'll still make music wherever I make it. Music's important to me, and sound is important to me. Audio is very important to me, more than performance. So, all that said, the next 10 years go by, or almost 10 years from Eye of the Storm. And finally, some people say to me, you know, people that are very well versed in the industry that do videos for large artists, in this case it was Bruce Springsteen's video crew, said, we're going to do it for you if you don't do it yourself, because we're tired of telling you to do it. and I said, aside from the fact that right now, you know, by the time they were telling me this, videos were a lot of money. It's not, you know, you don't just go and make one. And I said, no, you know, I don't, you know, thank you very much, but no thanks. And I tried to bow out gracefully, and it was a wonderful offer and everything. But guess what? They did show up to do it. They said, we're doing it, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So faced with that, I had to sort of make a compromise. So I said, look, you know, I'm a relatively polite person. You know, if somebody offers me food that I don't like, I will probably eat it, okay, out of politeness. I don't want to just tell them, you know, take it away. So I said, okay. I said, but there's a caveat, there's a condition. And they said, what's the condition? I said, well, I'm only ever going to do one. They said, okay, we'll take one. I said, but because I'm only ever going to do one, I think that I need to do as many things as I can on one day, or maybe even 1.5 days. We'll shoot it like a film. We'll invite the audience into the sound check the night before. We'll have a place that we could play all day long, like when bands play all day long when they go to their rehearsal rooms. Okay, so it's not that hard to do. People think it's hard, but it's not hard. And we'll play, you know, and it turned out that we did that. We had a Friday night from 7 till about midnight and doing the sound check, which people have not seen yet. I've got all that footage. And on that night, we did, you know, tons of other tunes. We did Beatles songs. We did all kinds of things. And then we've got the Saturday in which we did basically 3 shows, but with breaks. So altogether, when you strip out all the talking that I did and the interaction with the fans, it basically comes down to 6 solid hours of the musical part. And as I told you before, I really liked what Scorsese did with The Last Waltz. So from my point of view, the second condition I said to the guys who were shooting it was, I don't want like flying crowd shots and lights and, you know, this whole like, wow, look how exciting it is, and flying cameras and all that stuff. It's the band. Please record the band. Let's bring let's bring people onto the stage and let them just have the songs, the playing and the organicness of the songs. And I always liked to do that. Whenever we would do sound checks, sometimes there's always a few fans that have come in that you've let in and stuff like that, because we're pretty loose, right? And I've always brought them up onto the stage so they could hear what we hear.
Right.
Because generally with a PA, you don't ever really hear what the cocoon that the band has. You're kind of getting it from a PA system. It never sounds quite as good as when you're actually on the stage. So I've always sort of liked that. And I said to Peter Daniel and those guys, you guys shoot it that way, and I'll mix it that way. And we'll just have the songs. And, they said, oh, well, why are you going to throw out all the stuff about you talking and all stuff? I said, people don't want to hear me talking. We want them to hear the music, okay? What good does it do if I'm talking? So let's give them the music. I can talk to people at the gigs. I can talk to people on the radio. I can talk to people if they call me. I'm fine with talking. But they want to get this, and they want to hear the music. So let's do that. So that's how it ended up at the 6 hours when I whittled it down. And that's what I did. I mixed it so that the audio on this DVD is a little bit different than if you go and you play, for instance, Real Live or any other live records that we've got, or even any other studio records. The audio on this is very, very organic, and it brings you to the point, I think, where I stand in the middle of the stage. That's the way I hear it. So drums are a little louder, the bass is a little off, a little off to one side, the rhythm guitar. So where I'm standing, there's a lot of guitar, and the vocal monitoring is very good. So that's how I wanted to mix it. And if you go back and you hear Real Live, which I love as a live record of mine,
sure,
and even the Black Live album from 78, which I love. The Black Live album from 70, 77, 78, that's definitely an arena. And the audio sounds like you're in the arena at about, 50 rows away or 20 rows away with a PA. Real Live is the same kind of thing, except you're in a slightly smaller place and you're closer to the stage. But this is on the stage. And this has that very organic sound. You can almost hear the pick on the strings, and you can hear the bass drum squeaking, like when he's hitting it, which is the guys that are musicians know what I'm talking about. When you're standing right in front of your drummer, there's a whole bunch of other resonances that the audience just doesn't get through a PA. And that's sort of the way I wanted to approach it, from the audio is king point of view.
And that's how it came out, yeah.
And
absolutely.
That's how it came out, and let me say this. If you haven't heard that before, if you're not a person who stood in that position before, like we have, it's very hard to mix it that way, because you don't know when to stop turning your dial. Like when does it approach that? So you have to have sort of some kind of let's say familiarity with the kind of feel and sound you get. So that's why I was able to do it. Had I never stood in that position, I probably couldn't have gotten it as real as I did. And people have said to me, oh man, this sounds so good and it sounds so good. I said, well, good is very subjective, but real is not. Real is not subjective. That's something that everybody knows when they hear it. It sounds real or it doesn't. And so I'm really glad that people think it sounds good, but I'm even more glad that it sounds real. And once you've got something sounding real, then you could make it good or better or worse, but I think you need to start with that. So as a producer, if I'm, let's say, producing your band, or I'm producing a singer, one of my techniques really is that I'll say to that singer, talk on the microphone, and I'm just going to close my eyes and try to see if it sounds like they're in the room with me. Like, does it sound real? I don't care if they've got an ugly voice or a great voice. Does it sound realistic?
Yeah.
Real instruments don't always sound beautiful. Like
That's
real
very
violins don't actually sound that beautiful.
Yep.
And so once you get it real, then you can sort of say, now how do we make real sound a little sweeter, a little better? That's when you use your equalizers or whatever. And that was my thing with this with the audio of this DVD. Unfortunately, there was a problem with the audio when they handed it to me at the end of the day. and it took a lot of time for me to fix the problem. It was purely technical, and it required purely technical techniques to resuscitate it because there was damaged audio on the drum channels. So,
did you ever get to a point where you weren't sure that you could actually fix it?
well, I wasn't sure I could actually fix it on day one
Okay.
because it was so bad that it was unfixable. And so the first thing I did was consult with. I've done this kind of editing before, where I've done what people thought was kind of impossible. I've done it before, so I had a little bit of a background in the ability to believe that yes, this can be done. I'll find a way, but it was just so bad that I literally started consulting with people who were experts in the field of audio replacement technology, and they all concurred that it was not fixable. Jeez. That there was just nothing there, that the stuff that was there was so distorted that how were you going to resurrect that, removing the noise? And I just thought, you know what? I kind of almost believed them at first, okay, because, some of them are pretty, smart with computers. But I thought, you know what? Let me try my way, that I developed, and let me try one bar. Let me do one bar of music, which is literally 4 beats. And I did. And that took a long time. And when I saw that I could do it to one bar, and yet the difference, you get to the end of the bar and all of a sudden it turns into this bad sound again, right? It's this really perfect sound, and then it turns into this bad sound. I said, well, listen, if I could do one bar, why can't I do 2 bars or 3 or 4 or 5 and just do 1 bar at a time? So it's like kind of like painting a billboard, right? They put squares and they just paint what's in the square,
Sure.
And it ends up being the picture, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And now as the song, unfortunately, the bar that I picked was easy. So then I started getting to way, way more complicated parts because we don't just play, 1, 2, and 4.
Sure.
Boom, chop, boom, chop. The drummer I use he's like playing like fusion all the time. He's very free flowing. So once you get into all the ghost notes and the odd beats and this and that, you've got to clean every one of these one by one. It's kind of like saying that you had to sort of replace every blade of grass on your lawn with a needle.
Yeah.
And so I realized I'd bitten off a hell of a lot here. And what I thought was going to be, maybe a year or so, just kept going and going and going and going. But I never once thought that while it was happening. It's really strange. Like, Christmas would come and Easter would come and summer would come and winter would come and summer would come.
Yeah.
And I was just doing it every day as if it was just once. And, I didn't know I was getting older. I didn't know I was getting thicker. I didn't know any of that. And the years just went by, I think, and then it was done, But you have to understand that the motivation behind it wasn't just purely artistic, Peter. I happen to be a very religious guy. Just happens that way. And I was so grateful for having gotten this, what I considered a wonderful gift when a bunch of people come and give you something like this, that I really was thankful to God for it. And then when I found out that it was damaged, I was really sort of, well, I'm going to fix this, and I promise I will.
Sure.
And once you do that, I don't know about other people, but once, my view is you don't promise God something and then not do it just because you found out it was too hard.
Right.
I mean, I'm 40 years with a wife, right? Mm-hmm. You make a promise, you keep it. Yeah. That's sort of the reason you keep a promise. And so that's why it just kept going and going and going. And it didn't matter to me whether I was not working. I wasn't earning any money at all. I was living on borrowed money, none of that mattered. I just needed to finish it at all costs. you know, I wouldn't even go for a doctor's appointment even when I was getting sick. 'Cause I was afraid that if they gave me bad news, I'd quit the work.
Right. Right. So you had to see it through. I mean, yeah.
I had to see it through, and you
yeah.
know, there's many times when I did get quite ill, that, you know, my wife and kids were telling me, you know, you need to go check this, you need to go check that, and I'd say no, because, you know, what if the work gets hurt? You know, like, I got to finish the work. I promised I'd do it. I got to do it. I got to do it. Even if I would have died, I was ready to die to finish, and I did finish. And you know what? I didn't really look at it till I finished it, because I just was dealing with making it sound real and fixing the problem. So
now that it is finished, what is your kind of opinion of the finished product?
I think it's excellent.
Yeah,
I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I think it's perfect. And here's the thing. If not for those tracks, everything else I didn't have to fix anything else. Okay. Like, everything else was fine. The guitar, the voice, you know, all that was okay. It was just that underlying rhythm section, beat section that I had to do. And I guess I just brought it to the level of where it was, had it been, you know, had I not had the problem. So it's not like I did this thing, you know, where, oh, let's make it better, or let's make it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's exactly what it was, but it's just cleaned.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I had to clean it, because had I not, you would have had this exact same product, you know, a month after I did it.
Right. Right.
And I would have had another 10 years of life
Yep.
you know, ahead of me. But, you know, it is what it is. But I'm very proud of it.
No, you did a great job. And I think if the story had never gotten out about all the issues you had to go through to get it to that final presentation, I don't think anybody would have known, because it sounds absolutely perfect. So you did a phenomenal job.
I mean, it's I have to say, like, when I say it's perfect, I don't mean subjectively perfect. Wow, it's great. You know, like, I'm not saying that. I'm meaning that the nature of the problem was properly excised, you know, taken out of it. So it's like you had a really, really dirty car or something, and you managed to clean all the dirt off of it without scratching the paint.
Sure.
You know, like, that's sort of what it is. And nothing has changed. Nothing is different. You know, I thought, you know, would be very interesting is what I might do, and I might still do this. I'd like to put out a version of some parts of the tunes that have the broken sound.
Just so people can hear it.
Yeah, I would love to do that, because you can track them together, like, in perfect sync, and then you can go back and forth, okay, like with a solo switch, you know.
Yeah.
And you can see that it is that it's exactly that, you know. I'm really thinking about doing that. I'm, you know, just letting it out there, not selling it, but just, you know, getting it out there and showing, here, look, man, this is what you can actually do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm showing that it's possible, because believe me if I tell you, everybody I spoke to said it was not possible. There wasn't a single person in the know of electronics or whatever that said, yeah, that could be done. You know, everybody said, no, it's too bad. It's too crackly. It's too gone. It's like, it's gone, you know. What have you got? Nothing to work with here. But I said, you know what? I can hear what's going on, and I know I can bring it back. And I did. Good. And I had to invent systems myself. That's what took so long. I'd have to, like, figure out, okay, what if we do this? And what if we do that? And that didn't work. And what if we do this? And what if we do that? And that didn't work. You know, so, but at the end of the day, someone said to me, Frank, they said, this thing sounds amazing, you know, as live video goes. They said, the guy from John Fogerty's band came to visit me when they were coming through Montreal, and he told me, he says, Frank, if you put this out like this, it sounds too good. It sounds like a record. I said, well, it should sound like a record. It's a record, you know? So the point is, people tell me that, and I think, okay, you know, one guy said, oh, you should get a Grammy for this. I said, well, I've never really been in that world of Grammys, but let me put it this way. If they ever decided to give me a Grammy, I'd ask if it could be for editing.
There you go. Yeah. You've earned it, right?
Yeah. Give me the Grammy for editing, because really, if I hand this project off, and I did that with a couple of friends later who are pretty good engineers in their own right. And I handed them segments, and I said, hey, get a load of this. Take this home, see if you can fix it. And none of them could do it. It was like, oh, what are you doing, man? But the thing is, I laugh, but it's true. Listen, any one of them could do it if they were prepared to take the time I took.
Right.
I think that's really what it comes down to, because I'm not doing anything that no one else could do. I'm just sort of,
you were committed,
willing to take the time. Now, in this case, that time was many years.
Yeah.
Well, not too many people are going to give up their career and then they're touring and everything. I stopped touring. I stopped playing. I stopped doing everything. And I just did this. And I incurred a lot of debt doing this.
Yeah, sure.
You don't live with a family of 5 for all those years and not bringing in any money,
right,
without borrowing a hell of a lot. So, I really wanted to do it. I wanted to see it through. I did see it through. I'm very glad I saw it through. And I just hope that people at least listen to it. It'd be wonderful if everybody went and got it. But you know what? You can only bring the horse to water. Okay.
True. Yeah.
And
true.
So Ryan, who's actually a younger person, who's the son of my engineer of many years, he put together this trailer, which really I didn't have anything to do with, and I thought he did a fantastic job with this trailer. Beautiful trailer. If people watch the video trailer, makes you want to see the video, and it's pretty nice. And so he's putting together another, a few other ones, short ones. He's got like people on video talking and stuff like that. I think, I'm very, very appreciative of everybody that's helped so far, and particularly I've seen comments from some of the fans. I get a lot of email. I participate on my own site quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so appreciative of the people that have supported this. They've all asked, are you going to tour again? Are you going to play again? I have said many times, if it's successful enough that promoters say, we want you to tour, then yes, of course I'll tour. If it's successful enough that promoters don't say it, but I can earn enough money to tour myself, then yes, I'll tour. But it's really going to depend on how this goes. And if it isn't, well, I'm not going to be upset about it, because I didn't do it to be successful. I did it to keep a promise.
Right.
And if it isn't, it isn't, and I'm okay with that. If it's a swan song, it's a swan song. At least there's something out there that people can say, well, what did Frank do? How did Frank play on stage? What was it like? And this thing really is a pretty definitive of that, compared to all the other crappy, phone videos that people take. And
oh, absolutely.
I can't stand seeing that stuff, not just from me, but from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I truly, truly endorse. Very happy with it. In a way, I now agree with the people who had said to me all those years, why don't you do a video?
Well, you know what? And you put it off for all those years, and you waited till the right time, and now you have the definitive video of Frank Marino. And that's, you know what?
And that's why we wrote the book. That's why there's the book too.
Yeah.
Right. So the package has the book, and they said, well, what are you going to do? I says, listen, Ryan Sparks is a great guy, and he's the journalist who basically wrote. Ryan.
I know Ryan. He's written for Sea of Tranquility for many years. So he and I have worked together.
And he's a great guy, wonderful person, and very, very what's the word? He'll find it all. Like there's a word for that when guys go journalisming. Okay, whatever that is. Doing
the detective work. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so he just wrote this great thing, and I said, I'm going to write. It's actually kind of a mutual agreement. And he says, you know what, Frank, why don't you write the last 10 years? I'll take it up to a certain point, and you take over at that point. And so I did. I wrote. Ryan writes up to the time that we get to the video, and then I write from the years after, and in a different style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and in a personal style. And so it's a great book. It's 180 pages. And they found some fantastic pictures I'd never seen before. I don't know where they got some of these photos, you know, like some of the guys that had shot these photos.
So Frank, you can't see it, but I'm actually showing it right now on camera. So
oh yeah,
great stuff.
I mean, I looked at some of the photos, and the only thing I could say about some of those old photos is, okay, Frank, like everything's really cool. I still wear the same kind of clothes, but I definitely don't wear those shoes, platform shoes.
I would hope not.
Yeah, no, but I still wear the same kind of, you know, cool leather shit, you know. Yep. But because I mean, that really is, you know, the video. The Agora thing, the things I'm wearing, there's pretty much what I actually wear. You know, it's not like a costume or anything like that. It's like the way I live my life. So, but the shoes, I don't know about those old platforms from the 70s. I don't know. Maybe I had like a height problem or something. I'm 5'8". I wanted to be 6'2" or something. You know. I don't know where that
I got to commend you for the set list, though. I mean, you did I think, a really great job of bringing together so many of your best tunes and some interesting covers, and I think it just works. It's like it's just,
well, there was so much missing though, Peter. Like I wanted to do. Listen, I wanted to do Land of a Thousand Nights. I wanted to do like there's a whole bunch of other. I wanted to do some of the jazzier ones like Lady and stuff like that from Hog and Rush 4. But I said, you know, how much can we do?
Yeah, I mean,
in the day, yeah. How much can we do? And listen, you know, you'll see on the video. There's on the vocal monitors, there's these white pieces of paper, and basically those are song lists and lyric lists. I have to remember my own lyrics because I'm going back 40 years, 50 years, for some of these tunes. But if everyone, you know, people can zoom in ever on these. I didn't do it myself, but I would imagine they'll see a lot of song titles on that list that just didn't make it.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for that was because we organically jam. So some songs that were supposed to be, you know, like for instance, Change of Space, which ends one of the discs. It goes into Space Unchained, which is a complete offshoot reinvented song at the moment, which wasn't supposed to happen. Now, had I not gone off in that direction, maybe some of those other songs would have been put in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what happens? Exactly. So what happens? A 4-minute track morphs into like 12, right? And that's just the way it goes.
And that's taking it away from, gee, we wanted to do Land of a Thousand Nights, or gee, we wanted to do this or that. Before you know it, they were telling me, well, you know, it's midnight. And I'm like, midnight? Really? Like, I still got a whole bunch of tunes to do.
Where did the time go? Oh, no.
Yeah, where did the time go? And also the 2 breaks that I took, you know, I had been up all night the night before. So one of the breaks, the first break between set 1 and set 2 were a little bit longer than they should have been. It was, you know, more than an hour or so. Maybe I should have taken only 15-minute breaks, and then I could have gotten more in, but I was so tired from having been up for almost 30 hours doing this gig that I just, you know, I maybe dozed a little.
Yeah.
But you know what? It came out the way it came out, and there are still those other tunes from Friday that if I ever get back in and mix those, that's a whole different kettle of fish, and that's a different feel because that's not us performing them. That's me in my t-shirt, my glasses, you know, my running shoes, having a practice basically with the guys, having fun.
Right.
That's a whole other thing. It's a very backstage sort of thing, you know.
I'm sure
so maybe
love to hear it.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe if I get a little bit of free time, I go back, I fix that a little bit, and we put it out the way it is. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know. We just show them, hey, this is like the making of type of thing, and they're putting up the scrims, and they're but the audience is there while we're doing all this. It's not like they're all just hanging out, you know. So
that's actually a good segue to kind of take us out here. So 2019, here we are. The set is out. Okay, so you talked earlier about, you know, let's see how this does, and if it's in the cards to maybe play some shows and tour again, it is what it is. So I guess we'll kind of wait and see. But now that you've got this project kind of finished and out there, Have any of your creative juices been flowing to maybe write some new music? And is there any,
Oh,
as far as like,
way.
it's one thing about touring, but you still, I'm sure, are able to write songs and record. So is there anything kind of brewing on that?
Yes, 100%.
Awesome.
And as a matter of fact, I have to say, it's almost like more than before.
Wow.
I guess because I, spent so much time away from that aspect of the brain,
Yeah.
that all of a sudden it's more than before. But I will say that there's so many directions now. First of all, a lot of people don't know this. I'll break some news here. I've actually always been a lover of pop music, even though I don't play it. Like I've always liked it. I guess it goes back to my days of being a Beatle fan in the 60s, and I was a fan of those kind of groups before I became psychedelicized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a kind of a closet pop writer, and I've written over 80 tunes that are, full-formed songs that are pop songs. They're like you could expect they were done by, the Beatles or something like that. They don't have guitar solos or anything like that. So I have those that I want to at some point get recorded. Not for me to do, but for maybe, some other band that wants to do that kind of music. So I'm very much into the whole creative aspect of it. But which direction that Frank goes, or the Mahogany Rush thing goes, that's always sort of changing because I'm becoming, I guess, more musically mature in a sense. So I'm dealing more with, not jazz, but kind of a blues-based jazz direction.
Well, I
There's
think
a
we
blues.
kind of saw that on Eye of the Storm. I detected that
Yeah.
because I've been following your music for a long, long time, and I think Eye of the Storm was starting to move in that direction a little more
Well, with
lyrical.
tunes like Avalon and stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, you see that sort of happening. But the other thing that I'm very, very much into is taking, let's say, what I call the psychedelic aspect of my music. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking about sound, audio. Taking that into a direction where you could actually make acceptable, widely acceptable type of music that's not necessarily just for a niche market, but using audio and sound in order to do that.
Sure.
Almost movie-esque rock, but still rock, or still guitar-based or whatever. That's a whole other aspect of it. I think, Pink Floyd sort of tried to do that too, and they did a pretty good job at it with some of the records that they did. But there's a lot of directions that one can go in music. The question becomes, why are you doing it?
Right.
Like, in other words, if I feel like I'm writing something that doesn't necessarily fit Mahogany Rush, should I stop or should I just write it and let the chips fall where they may? And one of the things I sort of always did do when I was doing all the albums for Columbia and them was, if you'll notice, I kind of did let the chips fall where they may. Consequently, it meant that my albums always had a little bit more of a choice of different styles than you would see from another band. For instance, if you bought an AC/DC record, it was pretty much that style all the way through.
Sure.
If you bought a Sinatra record, it was that style all the way through. When you'd get my record, they'd say, well, okay, you're doing a blues, and okay, you're doing a jazz, and okay, you're doing a psychedelic, and okay, you're a heavy psychedelic guy. Which guy are you? It's like a box of mixed chocolates.
Yeah, I'm all
And
this. Yeah.
yeah, and many times the record company hated that because they felt, well, we don't know who to market you to. Well, I'd say, well, marketing's not what I'm thinking of here. I don't care about marketing. That's very
Frank,
against.
you're not fitting to any one neat little tidy box, Frank. And
Yeah, and that's so that. But then again, look at Zappa. I mean, he kind of did that too. He went off
sure
in all
did.
kinds of directions, right?
He
And I
sure
really
did.
liked that about Frank Zappa. So, and I liked that about all the artists that did that. It just happens to be something I like. The only other thing is when we start to name all the artists that did that, they're not really super famous guys.
Right.
So it is true that if you don't pigeonhole one style, you're probably less likely to become a household name.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to be more known as a musician's musician.
Right.
And I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that because I don't have to be a household name. I don't even have to have money. I'm okay with my life the way it is.
And I think a lot of your fans are kind of okay with that too.
Sure. Look, we're not 21 and 22 anymore.
No.
Like I'm going to have a 65th birthday in November. And I've been doing this since I was 15. So I've put 50 years, a half a century, into just making music. And for me, that you can't ask for a more fortunate life. That's pretty good. Like to have gone through my 50 years of my life doing something I love, even though it had its pitfalls. Listen, we should all be so lucky, and I thank God for that. It's very, very good.
Yep.
So what will I keep doing? Well, there's that blues album. The one. Remember I told you, Frank, do a video, and I'd say, yeah, I will, and I never did till they forced me. Well, this same thing's been going on with this blues record for even longer than that. Frank, do a blues record. Frank, do a blues record. And I said, you know what? I've got a different idea for a blues record the way I had a different idea for the video. And so I started putting together years ago, I started putting together this completely different style blues record, not going to be what people think, typical guitarist plays blues record and goes and does all the typical blues licks. No, it's not that at all. It's a very, very different, it's a blues record that doesn't even need guitar, in which I then sit in on. Okay, it's a completely different thing, a different style, and it's not just 12 bar. So that's sort of the blues record that's 50% completed that I never finished when I started doing this. Maybe I go back and I look at that a little bit.
Now you got the time. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we'll see. But then I got a call. I'll break some news here for you. I got a call 2 days ago, actually, from an agent, and they said, we really want to put you on a tour. And I said, okay, how? Well, we'll get back to you. So right now, some people are saying they want to put me on the road, and if they come back with the right thing, then I guess maybe I'll be thinking about the road. But
that's pretty exciting news.
I hadn't thought about it till really 2 days ago when they made an actual overture.
That's great.
So we'll see what happens.
I hope it happens. I haven't seen you live since I think it was 2009 at BB King's in New York City.
You were there.
I was there.
And I've heard they've closed BB's now.
They have. Yeah, they have. Yeah.
They've completely, it's shut down. It's not there anymore.
No, it's not there anymore.
So where are the acts playing now?
They've closed down so many of them. I'm not even really sure. A lot of stuff, a lot of bands play at the Iridium.
That's very small, though. It's 100
very
people.
Small, though. Yeah. Irving Plaza is still around. They're closing the Best Buy Theater, which I'm not even sure what it's called anymore. There's the Gramercy is still there. So they've closed down a lot of them, though.
Were you at the BB show when we did the Hendrix birthday?
Was that 2009?
I don't know the year. Oh. It was when we had done they did a special birthday for Jimi Hendrix, and I sort of, the first time in like 30 or 40 years, I went and played a bunch of Hendrix material, which I haven't done since like the early 70s, and it was for the birthday. It was a closed show at BB's for the Hendrix birthday party.
Yeah, I wasn't at that one. I was at, you had played it. It was, I'm pretty sure it was 2009, and you played, although I think you played a Hendrix tune or two that night, but it was mostly.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about, there was a very specific Hendrix birthday one.
Yeah, that I wasn't at, no.
And I actually did what I said I would never do. I went and I did a complete, only Jimi Hendrix. And we know what I did? I did his first three albums from beginning to end. So it was live, and it was at BB's.
That's crazy. And that would have been something to see.
But it was a very one-off thing, and I told the guy and I told the crowd that night, this is a really special occasion. I'm never going to do this again. I haven't done it for 40 years, 30 years, but we're doing it for a very special occasion, and it was reasonably private. So, I thought maybe you might have been there for there. But I'm sad to know that BB's is closed. BB's was a place I liked going to.
Yeah, I saw many a good show there, and I guess all good things come to an end at some point. I don't know, but I think it was a matter of money and the rents and all that sort of thing. So,
it's always the money.
It's always the money. So
All
Frank,
of the
so
money.
thank you so much for joining us today, and I would like you to give a little information on where everybody can get this wonderful video box set, which I'm holding up right now to the camera, because I think everybody out there who's a Frank Marino fan needs to own this in their collection. And if you've not been exposed to the music of Frank Marino but always wanted to, this is a good place to start. So if you have a little information on where they can get this wonderful thing, man.
Yeah, well, if they go to mahoganyrush.net/DVD, and pretty much even the front page of mahoganyrush.com or YouTube, and look up the trailer, official trailer, Frank Marino Live at the Agora trailer. You know, the trailer is pretty much gonna show them, what it is. Whether they're going to like it or not, I don't know. But I think if they watch the trailer, they'll get a pretty good idea of what it is, and obviously what you're doing, talking about it and showing it. And I got to thank you again, Peter, for doing it.
You're very welcome. My pleasure, actually.
Yeah. So that's basically it. DVD, Frank Marino Live at the Agora. It's out there. I hope people like it. I hope they get it. And I hope we're on tour and we can perform it in front of you.
That would be great. That would be great. So you get 6 hours worth of music here, blistering performance by Frank and the band. You've got the DVDs, you got the Blu-ray, you got the booklet. It's a great set, a great performance, great music. Frank, your guitar playing and your vocals are top notch as always, and we hope to see you out on tour. That would be great, and new music would be even better. So thanks again to Frank Marino for joining us. Frank, it's been great catching up again. Let's not make it 15 years next time, please.
Okay, well, we're all hoping for the best there. Thank God.
There you go. So hopefully we'll see you on tour, Frank, and I'll be keeping in touch. And as you get some news, feel free to pass it on to me, and I'll let our viewers know.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Frank. Take care.